not going to stand behind the podium.
Thank everybody for coming tonight, joining online and coming in person. Sorry about our technical difficulties. We're running a little bit late, but we got it. And so if you have to be somewhere and you need to cut it short, just know that that recording will be posted to our website at EMSISD/parent night. And so it will be there probably in the next couple of days. So I have my team of intervention counselors in the district, and they are going to be presenting some fun and engaging information for you guys, helping your child to be successful in the school setting and beyond. And so I will let them take it away.
Hey, good evening. My name is Erica Hernandez, and I will be starting off. We'll have 3 different topics: screen time with me, giving you information on how much is too much, tips and alternatives for relationship and skill building. Then we'll hear from 2 other intervention counselors with healthy habits and routines that matter, and fun and games that you can play with your children at home. Screen time. So we know screens are very helpful. They have allowed and made our lives convenient, but they are a source of constant stimulation, which makes us want to remain engaged with that device or whatever we're using on the screen. So it can be a challenge whenever a child or student is presented with a less stimulating activity that they might not look forward to doing. They find it more difficult to engage. So we want to give you some information on how to use screen time in a healthy manner to allow for students to be engaged in the classroom when they're doing activities that may not provide all the stimulation they get from their device. Being mindful to help use our screens as a tool. And here are some recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. The big thing to know is that there's no specific time that they recommend as far as like we must stick to 2 hours or less. They really are flexible in knowing that families all have different activities, all have different lifestyles. So it's keeping in mind, we don't need to be rigid in our rules. Screens can be a helpful tool during the pandemic. We all may have used it as an opportunity to help ourselves be engaged with work, our child be engaged with school, or entertain while we're doing another thing that needs to get done. So there's really, whenever you're considering screen time in your family, it's thinking in terms of what everyone needs and stress levels. So sometimes we might need to depend on screens to get another responsibility done at home, as long as screens are not replacing some essential activities in life. And so for here, we see in grade schoolers and teens, the recommendation is that we still allow time in our daily lives for exercise, movement, family meals, full night sleep, and plug time. So ideally for all ages, recommending that we're aware of what our children are watching so that we can help answer questions for them and also learn what they're doing, seeing, and saying online. So you can be their media mentor. And they also on their website have a great tool where you can come up with your own family's media plan based on the things that you want to do each week and the things you need to do. So technology use. We want to set up our home and our lifestyle for success. So that could look like setting specific times in our day when the kids or your students will know when they're allowed to use screens. Like if we use it as 30-minute break to decompress after they've been at a sport activity, or if they've accomplished all their classwork or homework, then they know every day at this time I can use media or screens. And so also that predictability will help them know whenever you ask them to stop, to put it away, that screen time use is over for that day or for that moment. Setting up your bedrooms to encourage healthy habits, meaning that devices aren't accessible in the bedroom so that they're able to do their nighttime routine without distractions or without that temptation of wanting to get on the device because it's so near. If it's convenient, we're going to go with the convenient option. So maybe that means TV's not in the bedroom, depending on your child's responsibility level, cell phone, tablet, finding a different way to do winding down without an engaging device, relying on that. And allowing for opportunities to engage in surroundings without devices. So that means if we're traveling 30 minutes for our sport activity, then we're not going to have devices in the car. That maybe we're using that time to allow them to look outside, engage with our surroundings, talking about traffic, the weather, our day, how things go. Usually when children are in the backseat, they're way more likely to have a conversation with you that they wouldn't necessarily have had if you're looking face to face. So giving that opportunity for those conversations, because if they have that device in hand, then they're already occupied and stimulated in a different way. So we have some links available for you to access that media plan so that you know how to find it for your own use. So when we're presenting limits to students, kids, we know they're going to be resistant because it's a change. Sometimes we've had a media use plan. It doesn't have to be an official written one all the time, but we may have tried something and now we're putting more limits that they're not used to, and it's not uncommon to have a little bit of resistance or them as they're adjusting to the new schedule and ideas. So when we have screens off, thinking of offering opportunities that are not just, well, because you can't be on your phone, you can do this. No, like, let's try this. This can be as fun as well. Let's find things that you like, and giving them an activity menu can be a way of coming up with things they'll do, because sometimes if they're upset that they're not getting what they want, they're not being able to think about, oh, what should I do? So if we know, oh, she likes coloring and she likes maybe her dolls or stuffed animals, then having a menu of ideas that are preferred for your child, or giving two choices. You can go play with this or that, and then they can go off and engage with their items. So toys can be grouped in two different ways. Closed-ended toys, which usually those are our toys that have a beginning and an end. They help kids learn to pay attention and work towards a goal. So that would be like our puzzles, books, games. They all have an end purpose. Our open-ended toys are things that don't have an end goal, and you can play with the ball back and forth, not necessarily, when you're not keeping score, that would be open-ended. Closed-ended would be whenever you have a goal of 10 goals in mind. Ball, blocks, cars, dolls, those all can be played with in very different ways by different children. So depending on the likes and interests of one child, a different child might look at it and play with it another way. So those are good and stimulating in a different way. So considering having options for both, just depending on the time frame and your child's preferences, or offering times with both at different intervals. Unstructured free play is highly encouraged because it allows for engaging with our surroundings, as we mentioned earlier, and it can also allow for creativity and give that opportunity for your child to explore and have an idea of building their likes, interests, hobbies they might want to pursue. So these are opportunities that we don't want to miss because they're engaged in one game that we know they like a lot, and that game takes the place of this. So they're making it an opportunity for many engaging in different activities. I will pass this off to Ms. Flo. She will speak to us about healthy habits and routines.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Lowe, and I'm going to be going over some information related to healthy habits and routines and why they matter. One of the kind of things that we're looking at this time in our children's lives is developmental needs. So this is just a checklist of some of the things we're looking at, making sure to cover as far as how are we meeting the needs of our children. Is our child sleeping enough and eating a balanced diet? Are they getting some form of exercise every day? Are they spending quality time with the family? Are they keeping in touch with friends? Do they have that social support? Are they invested in school and keeping up with homework? Do they spend time on hobbies and extracurriculars that matter to them? Are they exploring these types of things? A gentleman by the name of Dan Siegel came up with this way of kind of helping us think about these questions. He called it the Healthy Mind Platter. So very similar to what the USDA does for food, right? And so they give us kind of what our plate should look like. These are the things that we all need. Now it'll change a little bit and shift as we age, but we're looking at needing time to focus. And all of these are directly related to the needs of our brain, right? We need time to closely focus on tasks in a goal-oriented way, taking on challenges that make deep connections in the brain. We need playtime, even adults. We need to allow ourselves to be spontaneous, creative, playfully enjoying novel experiences, and this helps us make new connections in our brain, which is very important for our children. Their brains are growing immensely. We need connecting time, where we connect with other people, ideally in person, or take time to appreciate our connection to the natural world that's around us, activating the brain's relational circuitry. We need physical time to move our bodies aerobically if possible, which strengthens the brain in many ways. We need reflection time, quietly reflecting internally, focusing on sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts helps better help the brain integrate information. We need time that's down, just kind of downtime where we're not really doing anything that's focused. There's no specific goal, letting the mind wander, just relaxing, allowing the brain to recharge. And we need sleep time, when we give the brain the rest that it needs to consolidate learning and recover from the experiences of the day. So why routines? They do many things for us. It's our kind of way of organizing our homes and our lives. It allows us to get things done and spend time together to be able to do fun things. It brings about safety, belonging, and relationships. Organized and predictable home environments can help kids and teenagers feel safe and secure and looked after. Predictable family life also helps kids cope during developmental changes and crises that occur. Having that stability of knowing what is happening and knowing what things are coming just helps, because life is not always that way. It doesn't schedule with us all the time. Routines built around having fun or spending time together also help to foster and build relationship. So those are really important, and they become just kind of part of what you do. Skills and responsibility, things like chores. And I know our children won't say they want those, but chores are really important for helping them not only to feel like they belong and are responsible in the home and to the home, but are going to teach them the skills that they're going to need later in life. Health and well-being. So we're also teaching kids how to wash their hands. Again, we're going to help them have stronger immune systems. We're going to help them keep from getting sick just by learning the basic skills of brushing your teeth and washing your hands and all these things to take care of themselves. These routines are good too for setting their body clocks, especially as they move into adolescence, when the body clock starts to shift and change. So we're kind of helping to set them up for success. Routines that are good are well planned. So these routines are going to spell out who does what, when they do it, and what it's going to look like. So if it's a clean room, you have to be clear on what that looks like, because my idea of clean and my daughter's may not be the same. It needs to be regular, so it becomes a part of everyday family life. You might look forward to walking together in the mornings to school. I know my husband walks our daughter to school, and that's become something that they look forward to, that time together every day. It's predictable. things happen in the same order each time. To the best of our ability, nothing is perfect. Everyone knows what to expect for the day. You may always wash school uniforms on the weekend, so you know that they're ready and to go on Monday morning. So these are just some examples of routines. And again, this information I just Googled, pictures of different things. There's websites that have been created by a lot of different people that give images that you can use, and everything that I got was free. There's definitely stuff you can pay for, but there's plenty that you can use. If you have kids who are artistic, they can draw their own pictures. But this is just, again, you can spell out as many of the steps as you would like to. So if you have a kiddo who's just learning to brush their teeth, you can make that a routine that they're learning to do. Once they have that down, then that just becomes the picture of the toothbrush. And pictures are really important, even for kids who are reading, because words take more energy from the brain. And if I'm tired, or I'm struggling with depression or anxiety or ADD or any of the things, words might be more than I can handle in the moment. And so pictures are just a little easier on the brain. They're less demanding. But so you have the morning routine in pictures. And again, you can tweak that to fit whatever you need. You can have options for things if you need to give a kiddo, like, would you rather read your book or color, right? 2 different options. And looking at the bedtime routine, you're looking at the bath, the teeth, the potty, the pajamas. We're looking at that quiet time, drawing and reading a book, right? No screens in there, and then getting in bed. And if your kids bathe in the evening, that's just really useful because you can turn that into something that's really good for just calming the nervous system. Warm water, just relaxing in the bathtub. The hot water helps to relax, bubbles, whatever helps them to relax. And this is just it's an activity idea. So taking that idea of the healthy mind platter, and you're just going to create a circle like a pizza. And each of those areas, focus time, play time, time in, connecting time, you're going to talk with your family about what you guys do for those different things. And you can draw pictures and engage with one another, thinking through how you meet those needs. And then it also gives you a chance to reflect on where you may need to do some more. Like, wow, we don't do enough physical time. We need to really kind of up our game in that area, right? So as a family, it's a fun way to connect. It uses the creative part of the brain and can engage kids that don't read all the way to the ones who do. It helps us to see what areas might need improvement individually and as a family, and helps us problem solve without blaming. So that's just something that you could try together. So there's 2 areas where we kind of run into a lot of different roadblocks when it comes to routine. And one is around food. And I know kids go through stages of being picky eaters, and that can be pretty developmentally normal. But just some things that I think we've learned along the way is avoiding the fight. You don't have to make kids eat anything in particular, as long as their pediatrician says they're healthy and they're fine. It's best to avoid so that we don't create any other issues unintentionally. Avoid making them eat anything. Just try to make things fun, like a food bingo. Or a who can eat the rainbow. This was a fun one that I have read about. You can place like a picture of a rainbow on your refrigerator, and everybody has a magnet to put on the different colors they eat for the day. And you see who eats the most colors, and then there's a prize for that, that family member. And it's just a fun way to encourage eating colors, which end up being fruits and vegetables, as long as your kids don't try to do Skittles or something like that. Encourage trying new foods, even foods that they didn't like before. Model trying things. So try things that you maybe didn't like in the past and try those again, and let your kids know that sometimes our taste buds change. When you're serving a meal, have a second option. Again, it takes the power struggle out of it. So I made spaghetti tonight. You don't like my spaghetti sauce? That's fine. There's cereal or a sandwich. Those are your options. You make it yourself. You don't have to cater to every individual's particular, passions in your home. So you make the meal and then have something that's a standby they can make themselves. Model calm responses to non-preferred foods. This one happens to me because I do not like onions, and they sometimes come on my burger. But instead of throwing the whole sandwich away, I just get them off and eat it anyway, right? So I'm just kind of modeling a healthy relationship with food. And then get them involved. The more kids participate in things around food, the more likely they are to want to try something. If they grew it, or they planted the seed, or they chopped it. And that can add a step or two and some frustration on the part for parents. But it's just something to think about, because the more we engage them, they're learning and they're going to want to participate. And then around bedtime, I know this one can be a challenging one. So here's some of just the information and recommendations. Preschool age children need about 10 to 13 hours of sleep a day. And that includes, I think, their hour nap that they get during the day. School-age children need 9 to 11 hours of sleep per day. It is best to have an established bedtime. So, and I think there's been some recent studies that have come out around this. If the bedtime is moving around, that can be detrimental to kids. It's not ideal for them. Even being flexible is okay. We don't want rigid, but if we're moving it around too much, then that's not necessarily, that can be disruptive to their ability to get good sleep. Having some screen-free time before bed, so doing activities that are not stimulating, that are relaxing and don't involve a screen. Ensuring the room is dark. Now, a nightlight is probably necessary for many, but as long as it's just that, and there, now that we have all these electronics, there might be little noises that they're making and lights that are blinking, and we just want to minimize as many of those distractions as possible. Making sure the room is cool and comfortable, and depending on some homes and heating systems and all the things, if you don't have as much control, then adjust the bedding. So maybe they just need a really thin sheet instead of a very heavy blanket. Just trying to make sure that they're cool and comfortable. We sleep best under those conditions. And then we want to teach and model and practice relaxation and self-soothing strategies. Goes In is something that you can find on YouTube. They have really great ideas for kind of teaching relaxation. Sleep stories for kids on YouTube. And I would just search this. There's so many. And as a parent, you're going to want to look at them and listen to the ones and find the ones that you feel are the most appropriate for your family. But sleep stories are just geared towards helping kids' mind have something to focus on so that they can just focus on falling asleep. Same with the sleep meditation. It's just more kind of like a story, but it'll usually involve a little deep breathing or some kind of progressive muscle relaxation. And then there are links embedded here for progressive muscle relaxation activities that are just ways to tighten and release muscles to help relax. It's like a self-massage. Taking a deep breath and deep breathing. And a fun one is just to have your child lay on their back and put a stuffed animal, a stuffy on their stomach, and then having them breathe in and lifting that little animal or stuffy and then breathing out and watching their stomach go up and down and up and down. But it's a good way to teach them how to use their breath to relax. That's kind of fun. And then a calming your mind grounding exercise. And these come from a children's hospital, and they use them with the kiddos that they see in their hospital, and they're very cute. So those are good to use just to help give kids some extra skills if they need it, which then will benefit them during the day when they're needing to regulate. All right, so let's learn about some more activities that we can do to have some fun with our kids.
Okay, y'all can't see me if I get behind the podium, so I'm gonna stand up here. Okay, so we're going to talk about some fun and games that you guys can do with your kids. And some of these you probably have heard of when you were a child, and some of them may be new to you. So when you're using the game brain, so anytime we're playing games or doing interactions like that, it's going to build the connection between family members, friends, and peers. Also, it creates a healthy and active environment. If we're up moving with the kids, they're more than likely going to want to move too. In skill building, we're going to talk about some different skills that each game will build. Self-regulation, so they can stay in their body and be able to regulate their emotions. Delayed gratification. That's like when you really want that chocolate chip cookie, but you should eat dinner first. And so you eat dinner and then get the chocolate chip cookie. That's like what delayed gratification is. Flexibility, winning and losing with a positive attitude, because we're not going to always win in life. So it's always a good idea. The younger we can practice losing gracefully and being a good sport, the better off we'll be. And also frustration tolerance. When you're playing games, kids can get frustrated, adults can get frustrated. And so knowing that that's an okay feeling to be frustrated and being able to work through that will help your kids when they have other experiences, maybe at school or at church or at a friend's house, when they become frustrated. Calm body, managing the expectations, following rules, and coordination. So we're going to start with an oldie but goodie, red light, green light. So the instructions are here, but what you're basically going to do is when you are standing there, you're going to have your kid face you. And when you say green light, your kid runs as fast as they can to you. When you say red light, they stop. And if they're still moving after you say red light, they have to go back to the beginning. So that way they learn to go, to listen to make their body stop when it's time. And they also understand, okay, if I accidentally keep moving, I'm just going to move back. And it gets them some activity. And then at the bottom of each of these games, it'll tell you what the skill is that you're working on. And then after they've got it all down, then you can switch and you can do the running and they can do the red light, green light. And anytime kids can take the control like that, it's really fun for them because so many times in kids' lives, the adults are in charge, the adults are in control. So that makes it a little more fun. Strong sitting. So in this one, you're going to need some bubbles and you can do it outside or inside. If you're outside or inside, you can sit crisscross applesauce on the ground. So you're going to tell your kiddo, first thing we're going to do, I'm going to blow bubbles. I want you to run around. I want you to pop as many as you can. They can do this with siblings, with friends. You can be in a contest with them and say, hey, we're going to see how many we can pop. Then the next time that you do it, you say, I'm going to blow bubbles, but I want you to sit as still as possible, crisscross applesauce with your hands in your lap or at a table with your hands in your lap. And you're going to just concentrate being as still as possible, even though there's bubbles all around. So it really helps them to learn to self-regulate and try and stay in their body, even if other things are going on around them. And then you can just like time it. So you can try and say, okay, I'm going to have you sit there and I'm going to blow bubbles twice. And then maybe next time I'm going to blow bubbles 3 times. So that way it's increasing the amount of time that they can sit still and not be bothered by the bubbles. And then you can take a turn too, or if you have multiple children playing, can let them all each take a turn and you can participate as well. Anytime we're spending time with our kids and just having fun, that's building that relationship. And then mother may I, or you can do father may I, grandma may I, whichever it is. So your parent or the person in charge will say, okay, you're going to have to ask mother may I, or grandma may I, or dad may I, before you can move. And you can only go up to 5 steps or whatever rule you want to make. And so they're going to say something like, grandma, may I take 5 steps? And you're going to say, yes, you may. And then they're going to take 5 steps. Or you can say, no, you may not. And then they're going to say, mother, may I? And then you can say yes. So when you say no, if they start to go forward, then they have to go all the way back to the beginning. And then they can switch places with you after they figured out the game, and then they can be in charge. And so then you get to say, child, may I? And they think that's really funny. So, and this will work on the skills that are at the bottom. Lots of card games and board games out there that you guys can play. Goldfish, Sorry, Trouble, it has a whole list of them. The important thing to remember is you don't necessarily have to play it the way that the instructions say. For example, when the kids are younger, if you want to play Connect 4, you could just say, we're going to do Connect 3. You could do Connect 3 and only have them do 3 in a row if 4 is too much for them to mentally think about. Or like Uno, if you want to play Uno, you can take out the wild cards and you can say, we're going to just match it by color. And then as they get older, you can say, okay, we're going to match it by number. Or maybe we will do number and color the older they get. So you can adjust the games. Nobody's going to come. The Uno police will not come and say you're not playing it right. So also, if you're playing a game like Sorry, there's like each person gets 4 of the same colored little, I don't know what those things are called, little tokens. So say you have like 4 red ones. That takes a long time if your kids are pretty young. So you might say, okay, we're going to each have 2. So you're going to have 2 blue and I'm going to have 2 red. So that way you can finish the game before the kid's like, hey, I'm done with this game. And it helps with counting and it helps them learn to take turns and it helps with the winning and losing thing. You know, back in the day, sometimes parents would say, oh, you know, I don't want my kids to be too sad. I don't want them to lose. But it really is a skill that we need to learn for life because we can't all win every time. Yes, I think that's all. Okay. Now, this is something that I didn't even know about until about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's super cool. And we're going to show you a video, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what Ball of EX is.
For those of you online, the link to this video is in the chat if you'd prefer to watch it that way.
Advanced Learning, a program called BalaVizX, a series of balance, auditory, vision exercises done with bean bags and racquetballs, sometimes while standing on a balance board.
It helps me a lot in school. getting better grades and stuff.
This was the intent of Bill Hubert when he created the exercise over a decade ago, after discovering it helped his students focus and learn.
The entire mind-body system just integrates so that you can put together what have been disparate skills, touch. The whole thing's the rhythm. That's what sets this apart from every other movement program.
The exercises get both sides of the brain communicating with each other. When you bounce a ball with the left hand and into the right, you use the right side of your brain and vice versa. When you alternate or go behind the back, they work in rhythm.
We have balls on the desks, and through the day we do Battle of the Zex a little later if we want to be integrated again. It's just a fun and effective way to keep the kids focused and ready to learn.
Timmy and Ann Wheaton started Battle of the Zex at Mesa Verde Elementary School 8 years ago.
It absolutely is reaching kids. Again, it's another tool that you have in your tool bag to be able to support kids learning.
They arranged for Hubert to come all the way from Kansas for this workshop in Tucson. Some have come even farther to participate.
We don't have anything like this in the UK, and it is just amazing how the children are working together to help one another.
Battle physics might be a little tough to get a hang of when you start, but once a student gets a grasp of things, he or she might be a leader in one of these groups.
And it's a great way for them to build self-esteem, because once they're taught how to do this correctly, we use them as teachers.
It has improved my reading and my eye-hand coordination. It has helped me unbelievably, actually.
They've proven by following the bouncing ball, you're more on the ball. Dr. Gilbert, Cable News 13, I'm Maple Lakewood.
Okay, so I have done this with kids as young as 3. Now, obviously, if they're 3, that takes a little bit longer, okay? I've done it with middle schoolers, high schoolers, and I even did it with some adult family members just because I thought that would be kind of fun. So what it is really helpful for is because it makes you use the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain. When kids are trying to regulate and adults are trying to regulate, if you can use both sides of your brain, that helps you regulate quicker. It helps with kids that are dyslexic. It helps with kids that have ADHD because they're having to focus and concentrate. And it's fun. It's not like, okay, I'm going to teach you this strategy where you have to be really still. So kids really love it. And you can get racquetballs at Walmart, but they're only certain seasons. And I don't know when racquetball season is. But you can order them also on Amazon. And on Amazon, you can even get like a big basket of them. And actually, it's cheaper per racquetball if you get the bigger one. So if you watch that, and then they also sometimes have like the little 20% off coupon. So it is a really good way to get your kids involved. And it's nice for like those days that you can't go outside because racquetballs are pretty soft. And so you can do it like in a hallway. You can do it underneath an awning. And it really does help kids learn the eye-hand coordination. When I learned about this, I decided I would try it on my own kids before I tried to do it with kids that were at school. And so I did it with my own kids. And then my racquetballs kept disappearing because they were doing it with each other, which of course I was really happy about, but I acted like, where are my racquetballs? And so it really is a fun thing. And so I have noticed that if I see that my kids' mood is starting to go, ooh, I'm like, hey, can you do this with me again? Because I have to do it at school and I want to practice it, or can show me. And if you look online, there's lots of free information about like how to start it. You're first starting, you're just bouncing the ball and they're catching it. And then they're bouncing it back and you're catching it with the other hand. And you're just doing that. And pretty soon you can get like doing a lot of little tricks behind your back and all kinds of things. So it's really, really helpful. So I hope you guys will try it.
Sure.
Where'd it go?
It went up. It just questions.
Oh, it just says questions on the next slide, so it's okay if it doesn't go. So if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can ask you. Did you have any questions?
How do you get, like my children see screen time limit as a reward, so it makes them want it more. And I never told them that it would be a reward, but they want it more because it's limited.
Oh, that's a really excellent question. For those at home, the question was, how do we make screen time not seem so exciting when we use it as a reward? And we're like, oh, you can use, you can have screen time if you do this, this, and this, and we're really limiting it. So then are we feeding into the idea that it's so exciting? That is a really good question. Oh, let me think on that. Y'all have some answers? Y'all thinking on that? That's a tough one.
That is. I mean, I guess,
Talk to.
I think it's good that they have something that they're excited to use. But and so that helps them be motivated maybe to then do the things that they don't want to do that are, not as exciting or not as interesting or stimulating. So I don't know how, I mean, I think that it's okay. Does it cause problems? Where does that cause problems for you?
Well, because they wanted, whether they knew what they were asked to do or not, it becomes something like,
Yeah.
like that's their need. Or like on the weekend when we don't limit it, I find that they spend more time watching TV just because they don't get it during the week.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it may be one of those things that it sounds like the argument comes in when it's like, no, you didn't, brush your teeth or you didn't pick up your toys, so you can't have the screen time. And then they're like, ugh. And you're like, oh man, yeah, that's really terrible. I hate it when I lose things I really want to do. I really hope that tomorrow that you make a different choice. So I think that's the trick in it all, which is even hard for us, but we get more practice because we're at schools all day. But, there's some great books and they have them at the library on love and logic. And it's kind of that whole idea of what to say when your kid's disappointed. And, you can even, as they start to get older, instead of just making it a nightly thing, you can say, okay, if you do these things, then you get 20 minutes on Saturday. If you do these things, the next day you get 20 minutes, so that way, even on the weekend, you're limiting it because you're adding it up during the week. And that teaches that delayed gratification as they get older. They could try that.
I think it's similar too to like cupcakes. I think my kids would eat cupcakes all day, every day, if I let them. But I'm trying to build in that moderation, that it's wonderful to enjoy that. It's a treat. And sometimes we can earn that, but it's in moderation because too much of it is unhealthy. And as mom's job, that's to keep you really healthy. And so we're going to limit how much time. So especially for the older kids, some of that educating helps them make sense of those limits.
Yes. Because we can make sense of that. Like, as much as I want to eat cupcakes all day long, I know that I can't because it's not good for me, even though they're amazing. But I know not to. So they don't know that yet. And even if they knew it and they're here, they're not quite here yet, right? So you're helping them in that way.
I once heard a dietitian say that you can say it as sometime food and all the time food. And you can also do that with activities. Well, that's a sometimes activity. And this is an all the time activity. Like you can always go for a walk or you can always read a book, but you can sometimes play video games and sometimes watch TV. So that's sometimes and all the time instead of making one good or one bad. That help any?
Yes.
Okay, good.
What would you say the social media should be added with child life?
Oh,
Or not
goodness.
this week?
Yeah, so the question was, when should social media be added? When should you allow your kids to have social media? I think that as long as you can hold off, the better we are. And even my kids are 17, 13, and 10. And even with the 10-year-old, like we had it locked down to where it was only YouTube Kids. But one day I was sitting on the couch there, and even with YouTube Kids, some of the stuff that will pop up is crazy. It's like these computer geniuses out there can figure out how to get through the YouTube Kids when I can't figure out how to get on, Amazon on my school computer. So you really have to just always be mindful. And I think that the really important part is that you also teach your kids why you're doing it and say, if something does come up on your iPad or if somebody does try to talk to you, it's important that you come see me. I'm not going to be mad at you because I know you're trying to do the right thing. But unfortunately, because of computers, sometimes things do that because we have to at some point let our kids be responsible. So I think really being honest with them about why you're concerned and that some people are unkind and some people are, not great for kids and those kind of things. I think you have to keep having those talks and then just reminding them often that like, I'm here to protect you on here and out there.
Yeah, I think I would add that, it's kind of an individual kid, kind of something to assess and, where their level of maturity is, where their ability to be responsible and make those types of choices and come to you and talk to you when there is something that is concerning. Because thinking through that, then at some point, I think we want to have them use it in while we can still kind of supervise and guide and give them information and make sure that they're doing it appropriately and safely, because eventually they're going to. So at some point, I want to have a little control over that with my kid, but I'm definitely going to be thinking about what if they do stumble upon this, and this? Are they prepared for that to the best of my ability? Do they have skills? Are they equipped to deal with whatever they might find or see? So.
And then getting a really good little monitoring program.
Mhm.
BARK is one,
BARK is good.
BARK. There are probably several more out there. That's the one I'm the most familiar with. And you can attach it to the apps and it tells you when there's violent content or sexual content. And so you can kind of monitor what it is they're looking at.
And how long they're on it.
Mhm.
And I think it also helps too, we worry about other people, but also just helping your kids know about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Like, we don't put someone down, but also don't put yourself down on there. And there's things that you can share on there, like, oh my goodness, my dog did this funniest trick, but you don't want to share on there, things that you wouldn't want the whole world to know, because it's a day and time where as they get older, employers check that kind of stuff. And
A digital footprint.
digital footprints,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah. These are great questions.
They are great questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, we thank you guys so much for spending a little bit of time with us, learning about these things. We hope we made it fun, and we hope it was also really informative.